She stood in the corner, silent, clipboard in hand. The general briefed the team, but paused when she raised her hand. "You've marked the wrong ridge, sir," she said. Everyone turned. He double-checked. She was right. And from that moment, no one saw her as just a nurse again. Lieutenant Commander Jessica Walsh had been assigned to Naval Special Warfare Training Center for exactly 8 weeks. At 5 feet 8 inches with sandy blonde hair always pulled back in a regulation bun, and piercing blue eyes that seemed to observe everything while revealing nothing, she moved through her medical duties with the kind of quiet professionalism that made her practically invisible to most personnel. She carried her medical clipboard with practiced efficiency, monitored candidate health status with clinical precision, and maintained the kind of steady, unobtrusive presence that characterized the best military medical officers. To the SEAL candidates and training staff, she was simply their assigned nurse, competent, reliable, and completely unremarkable in a facility filled with exceptional warriors preparing for the most demanding military operations. The candidates knew her only through routine medical interactions. She checked their vital signs during physical training, treated their injuries with professional competence, and monitored their health status with thorough attention to detail. But she rarely spoke beyond what was medically necessary, never engaged in tactical discussions, and maintained a clinical distance that was unusual even for military medical personnel. They respected her medical expertise and appreciated her thorough care, but none of them had ever wondered about her background, her previous assignments, or what experiences had shaped her into the quiet professional they encountered daily. Lieutenant Commander Walsh's daily routine was predictable and professional. She arrived early, reviewed candidate medical files, attended training briefings to understand potential injury risks, positioned herself strategically during training exercises, and provided immediate medical care when needed. Her medical competence was unquestioned, her professional judgment was reliable, and her presence was taken for granted by everyone at the facility. But assumptions can be dangerous, especially when they're made about people whose true capabilities remain carefully hidden behind professional roles. Welcome to Silent Salute, where we discover that extraordinary expertise often hides behind the most ordinary professional appearances. Before we continue this incredible story, tell us in the comments which country you're watching from today. And if you believe that the most dangerous assumptions are those we make about people who seem to fit perfectly into expected roles, hit that subscribe button to support our channel. We're honored to share these remarkable stories with you. Class 315 was particularly demanding. 24 candidates from diverse military backgrounds, all pushing themselves through training designed to identify and forge America's most elite warriors. The daily routine was relentless, brutal physical conditioning, advanced weapons training, underwater demolition exercises, tactical simulations, and psychological challenges that tested every aspect of human endurance and mental toughness. Through it all, Lieutenant Commander Walsh provided medical support with the same steady competence that had characterized her entire assignment. The candidates had developed their standard assumptions about her role and capabilities. She was professional medical support who ensured they remained healthy enough to continue training. Her medical knowledge was comprehensive, her emergency response skills were excellent, and her ability to handle training-related injuries was unquestioned. But she was also remarkably reserved, speaking only when necessary for medical purposes and never participating in the tactical discussions that were central to SEAL training culture. Among the candidates was Gunnery Sergeant Marcus Rivera, a former Marine Corps Force reconnaissance operator who'd served multiple combat deployments before applying for SEAL training. Rivera was respected by his fellow candidates for his tactical expertise and leadership abilities, but he shared the common assumption that medical personnel operated outside the warrior culture that defined special operations. "Doc Walsh knows her medical stuff," Rivera had commented to his teammate during their 7th week, "but she's probably the most reserved medical officer I've ever worked with. Professional as hell, but you never get any sense that she understands the tactical side of what we're doing out here." Petty Officer Jackson, who'd served as a Navy corpsman before SEAL training, offered some perspective. "Some medical officers just maintain strict professional boundaries, Rivera. Doesn't mean they don't understand military operations." But Rivera's observation was accurate. Lieutenant Commander Walsh's professional distance was unusual even for military medical personnel. Most doctors and nurses developed some level of tactical awareness and personal rapport with the special operations personnel they supported, but Walsh maintained a clinical detachment that seemed almost impersonal. The situation that would change everything began during the 9th week of training when Class 315 was scheduled for advanced tactical planning exercises. This was one of the most intellectually demanding phases of SEAL training, where candidates learned sophisticated mission planning, terrain analysis, and strategic thinking that could mean the difference between mission success and catastrophic failure in operational environments. The training was being conducted by Brigadier General Patricia Stone, one of the most experienced special operations planners in the U.S. military. General Stone had planned and overseen hundreds of successful special operations missions, and her expertise in tactical analysis and mission planning was legendary throughout the special operations community. Lieutenant Commander Walsh was assigned to provide medical support for the training evolution, positioned at her standard observation point in the corner of the briefing room, where she could monitor candidates for signs of stress or fatigue while remaining ready to respond to any medical emergencies. Her role was essentially passive: observe, monitor, and be prepared to provide medical care if needed. The tactical planning exercise involved a complex hypothetical mission in mountainous terrain, requiring detailed analysis of topographical maps, weather conditions, enemy positions, and multiple tactical considerations. General Stone was using large-scale military maps and aerial reconnaissance photographs to brief the candidates on mission parameters and planning requirements. Gentlemen, General Stone began, this exercise will test your ability to plan and execute a rescue mission in hostile territory. Your objective is to extract a downed pilot from this location. She pointed to a specific area on the map, while avoiding enemy positions and dealing with challenging terrain. The candidates studied the maps and photographs with intense concentration, trying to absorb the complex tactical information while beginning to formulate their mission plans. General Stone continued her briefing, identifying key terrain features, potential approach routes, and tactical considerations that would influence mission planning. The primary challenge is this ridge line here, she said, indicating a prominent geographical feature on the map. Enemy forces are positioned along this high ground, controlling the most direct approach to the objective area. As General Stone continued her detailed briefing, Lieutenant Commander Walsh remained in her corner position, clipboard in hand, apparently focused on medical monitoring while the candidates absorbed the tactical information. But as General Stone proceeded through her analysis of the terrain and tactical situation, something caught Lieutenant Commander Walsh's attention. She studied the maps and photographs more carefully, cross-referencing the topographical information with the aerial reconnaissance images. General Stone was explaining approach routes and tactical options when Lieutenant Commander Walsh quietly raised her hand from her corner position. The entire briefing room fell silent. Lieutenant Commander Walsh had barely spoken during her entire assignment, and now she was interrupting a tactical briefing by one of the most senior officers in special operations. General Stone paused her briefing, clearly surprised by the interruption from the medical officer who had remained silent throughout months of training exercises. Yes, Lieutenant Commander Walsh. Walsh stood up from her corner position, and for the first time since her assignment to the training facility, she spoke with something other than clinical professionalism. General Stone, I believe you've marked the wrong ridge line as the enemy position. The statement hit the briefing room like a physical blow. A nurse was correcting a brigadier general's tactical analysis in front of SEAL candidates. The audacity of the interruption was matched only by the precision and confidence with which Walsh had delivered her assessment. General Stone looked at Walsh with obvious surprise, then turned back to examine her maps and photographs more carefully. Lieutenant Commander, can you explain your assessment? Walsh approached the map display with the kind of confident movement that suggested familiarity with tactical analysis and terrain interpretation. General, if you compare the topographical lines with the aerial photography, you can see that the ridge you've identified as the enemy position is actually a secondary ridge approximately 800 meters southeast of the actual high ground. The true dominant terrain is here. Walsh indicated a different location on the map, which would significantly change the tactical approach and enemy fields of fire. General Stone studied the maps and photographs more carefully, cross-referencing the topographical data with the aerial reconnaissance images. Her expression gradually changed from surprise to recognition as she realized that Walsh's analysis was not only correct, but revealed a significant error in the tactical briefing. "Lieutenant Commander Walsh," General Stone said slowly, "you're absolutely right. I've been working with incorrect terrain identification. The actual enemy position would be on this ridge, not the one I indicated." The briefing room remained silent as 24 SEAL candidates and multiple instructors processed what they had just witnessed. Their quiet nurse had just corrected a brigadier general's tactical analysis with expertise that exceeded the knowledge of most military personnel. General Stone looked at Walsh with obvious respect and growing curiosity. "Lieutenant Commander, how did you identify this error?" Walsh's response was characteristically modest. "Terrain analysis was part of my previous training, General. I noticed the discrepancy between the topographical and photographic information." But General Stone had spent decades around military personnel, and she recognized advanced tactical knowledge when she encountered it. "Lieutenant Commander, terrain analysis at this level of detail requires significant training in military geography and tactical planning. What kind of previous training included advanced terrain interpretation?" Walsh seemed to be weighing how much information to share about her background and capabilities. "My previous assignments required understanding of tactical geography and mission planning, General." Rivera, who had been listening to the exchange with growing amazement, stepped forward with obvious respect and curiosity. "Ma'am, what kind of assignments require medical personnel to have advanced tactical planning knowledge?" Walsh's answer provided some insight into military roles that most personnel rarely encounter. Assignments that involve providing medical support for missions where traditional support isn't available, and where medical personnel must understand the full tactical situation to provide effective care. General Stone was beginning to understand that Walsh's capabilities extended far beyond standard military medical training. "Lieutenant Commander Walsh, would you be willing to continue the tactical analysis? Your terrain interpretation has been more accurate than my initial assessment." Walsh accepted the invitation, understanding that her tactical knowledge could contribute to the training exercise in ways she hadn't originally planned. What followed was a sophisticated tactical analysis that demonstrated Walsh's advanced understanding of military planning, terrain evaluation, and operational considerations. Her briefing covered approach routes, timing considerations, enemy capabilities, and extraction procedures with the kind of detail and expertise that characterize the most experienced special operations planners. "The corrected enemy position," Walsh explained to the candidates, "creates different tactical challenges, but also provides opportunities that weren't apparent with the incorrect terrain analysis. The actual high ground offers better concealment for approach, but requires longer movement times and different extraction procedures." The candidates were fascinated by Walsh's tactical expertise, recognizing that they were receiving instruction from someone whose knowledge exceeded their expectations of medical personnel. Jackson asked the question everyone was thinking. "Ma'am, where did you develop this level of tactical planning expertise?" Walsh's answer reflected the complex career paths that characterize the most experienced military professionals. "I've served in assignments that required integration of medical and tactical capabilities, where understanding the full operational picture was essential for mission success." General Stone, who had been observing Walsh's tactical analysis with obvious professional interest, stepped forward with a proposal. "Lieutenant Commander Walsh, would you be willing to assist with our tactical planning curriculum? Your expertise could significantly enhance candidate training." Walsh considered the request carefully, understanding that her tactical knowledge could contribute to SEAL training in ways that went beyond medical support. "General, I'd be willing to share tactical planning techniques that might enhance candidate preparation, but my primary responsibility remains medical support." Master Chief Petty Officer Williams, who had observed the entire briefing, understood that Walsh's demonstration had revealed capabilities that fundamentally changed her potential role at the training facility. "Lieutenant Commander Walsh," Williams said, "I think we need to discuss expanding your role here beyond medical duties. Your tactical planning capabilities could enhance multiple aspects of our training programs." The conversation was interrupted when the facility's training schedule called for advanced hand-to-hand combat exercises. Class 315 was scheduled for intensive close-quarters combat training, one of the most physically demanding phases of SEAL preparation. The combat training was being conducted by Senior Chief Petty Officer Michael Torres, a veteran SEAL instructor with over 12 years of experience in special operations and martial arts training. Torres was known throughout the special operations community for his expertise in multiple fighting disciplines and his ability to teach advanced combat techniques to elite military personnel. Today's training will focus on advanced hand-to-hand combat techniques, Torres announced to the candidates. These skills could save your life when weapons aren't available or when close-quarters situations require immediate physical response. Lieutenant Commander Walsh resumed her standard medical monitoring position, observing the training evolution from a safe distance where she could respond to injuries while remaining out of the way of the combat exercises. Torres began the training with demonstrations of advanced striking techniques, grappling procedures, and defensive maneuvers. The candidates practiced these techniques under his supervision, learning combat skills that would enhance their effectiveness in close-quarters situations. Combat effectiveness, Torres explained, requires understanding that real fights are unpredictable, chaotic, and potentially lethal. These techniques are designed to end threats quickly and decisively. The training progression was carefully structured, moving from basic techniques to more advanced applications. Candidates practiced strikes, submission holds, defensive moves, and weapon retention procedures under Torres's expert guidance. During a demonstration of advanced submission techniques, Torres called for a training partner to help demonstrate proper application and defense procedures. "I need an experienced partner for this demonstration," Torres announced. These techniques require someone who understands the risks and can safely participate in full-contact demonstration. Several candidates volunteered, but Torres was looking for someone with enough martial arts experience to safely demonstrate advanced techniques without risk of serious injury. "Actually," Torres said, "let me get one of the other instructors to help with this." Advanced submission techniques require experienced partners who understand proper safety procedures. But before Torres could call for another instructor, Lieutenant Commander Walsh spoke up from her medical monitoring position. "Senior Chief Torres," she said quietly, "I can assist with the demonstration if you need an experienced partner." The training area fell silent. Walsh had barely participated in any non-medical activities during her entire assignment, and now she was volunteering to participate in advanced combat training demonstrations. Torres looked surprised by the offer. "Ma'am, I appreciate the volunteer spirit, but these demonstrations require partners with significant martial arts experience. I don't want to risk injury to medical personnel." Walsh's response was simple and direct. "I have experience with the techniques you're demonstrating, Senior Chief. I can safely participate in the training evolution." Torres was clearly uncertain about accepting the offer. Military medical personnel occasionally had martial arts training, but advanced submission demonstrations required substantial expertise and experience. "Ma'am, with respect, these are advanced combat techniques that require extensive training. Are you sure you're comfortable with full-contact demonstration?" Walsh stepped forward from her medical station, and for the second time that day, she moved with something other than clinical professionalism. Her movement was fluid, balanced, and carried the kind of confident grace that suggested extensive martial arts training. "I'm comfortable with the techniques, Senior Chief. Let's proceed with the demonstration." Torres, still somewhat uncertain, but recognizing that Walsh seemed confident in her abilities, agreed to proceed with the demonstration. "All right, ma'am. We'll demonstrate advanced submission holds and proper escape procedures. The key is controlled application that stops resistance without causing injury." But what happened next shocked everyone in the training area. As Torres moved to demonstrate a submission technique, Walsh suddenly shifted her position with speed and precision that caught the experienced SEAL instructor completely off guard. In one fluid motion, she avoided his attempted demonstration, moved inside his defenses, and applied a textbook-perfect submission hold that had Torres completely controlled before he could react. The technique was executed with such speed and precision that it seemed almost effortless. Walsh had not only avoided Torres's demonstration attempt, but had reversed the situation and applied an advanced submission technique with obvious expertise. Torres, finding himself suddenly controlled by a submission hold applied by the quiet nurse, tapped out immediately. Walsh released the hold instantly and stepped back with the same clinical professionalism she'd shown throughout her assignment. The key to defending against submission attempts, Walsh said calmly, is recognizing the attack early, disrupting the attacker's balance, and creating opportunities for counterattack before the hold is fully applied. The training area was completely silent. 24 SEAL candidates and multiple instructors stood frozen, staring at a military nurse who had just demonstrated combat techniques that exceeded those of their experienced SEAL instructor. Torres, somewhat stunned by what had just occurred, looked at Walsh with obvious respect and amazement. "Ma'am, where did you learn those techniques?" Walsh's response was characteristically understated. "Previous training, Senior Chief. I have some background in martial arts and close-quarters combat." But Torres had been teaching combat techniques to special operations personnel for over 12 years, and he recognized expert-level capability when he encountered it. "Ma'am, that wasn't just martial arts training. That was sophisticated special operations combat technique executed at a master level." Walsh continued organizing her medical supplies while responding. "I've had extensive training in defensive tactics and close-quarters combat as part of my military assignments." Rivera, who had witnessed both Walsh's tactical analysis correction and her combat demonstration, approached with obvious respect and growing understanding. "Ma'am, between your tactical planning expertise and your combat capabilities, it's clear that your background includes more than standard medical training. What kind of assignments require medical personnel to have advanced tactical and combat skills?" Walsh seemed to be considering how much information to reveal about her background and previous assignments. "My previous assignments involved providing medical support in high-risk environments where medical personnel needed additional capabilities to ensure mission success and personal survival." General Stone, who had remained at the facility to observe the combat training, stepped forward with obvious recognition of advanced military capabilities. "Lieutenant Commander Walsh," General Stone said, "your tactical analysis and combat skills suggest experience that goes far beyond standard military medical training. Would you be willing to discuss your background in more detail?" Walsh realized that her demonstrations had revealed capabilities that clearly exceeded what anyone expected from medical personnel. "General, I've served in assignments that required integration of medical, tactical, and combat capabilities. The training I received was designed to enable medical personnel to operate independently in the most challenging operational environments." Torres, still clearly impressed by Walsh's combat demonstration, asked the question that was becoming increasingly obvious. "Ma'am, are you saying you've been assigned to special operations units?" Walsh's answer provided insight into military roles that few people fully understand. "I've served with units that conducted missions requiring specialized medical support in environments where traditional support wasn't available and where medical personnel faced the same risks as combat operators." General Stone was beginning to understand the full implications of Walsh's background. "Lieutenant Commander Walsh, are you telling us that you've served as a special operations medic with combat qualifications?" Walsh nodded. "I've served in assignments that required full integration of medical and combat capabilities, where the distinction between medical and tactical responsibilities wasn't relevant to mission requirements." The revelation that their quiet nurse was actually a special operations veteran with advanced tactical and combat training fundamentally changed how everyone at the facility understood her presence and capabilities. Jackson stepped forward with obvious respect. "Ma'am, why didn't you mention your special operations background when you were assigned here?" Walsh's answer reflected the professional discretion that characterized special operations personnel. "My previous assignments were classified, and my current role is medical support. I didn't see the need to discuss previous duties that weren't relevant to my current responsibilities." But Williams understood that Walsh's capabilities were highly relevant to SEAL training. "Lieutenant Commander Walsh," Williams said, "your special operations background is extremely relevant to our training mission. Would you be willing to expand your role here to include tactical and combat instruction?" Walsh considered the proposal carefully, understanding that her special operations experience could contribute to SEAL training in ways that had never been available before. "Master Chief, I'd be willing to share tactical and combat techniques that could enhance candidate preparation while continuing to provide medical support." General Stone endorsed the expanded role. Medical personnel led tactical responses, and mission planning exercises that integrated medical and tactical considerations from the initial planning stages. Rivera, who had initially questioned Walsh's understanding of tactical operations, became one of her most dedicated students. "Ma'am, your approach to integrating medical and tactical capabilities has completely changed how I think about special operations. You've shown us that the most effective operators are those who can fulfill any role required for mission success." Torres, the SEAL instructor who had been demonstrated against during Walsh's combat revelation, incorporated her techniques into the facility's combat training curriculum. "Working with Lieutenant Commander Walsh," Torres told other instructors, "has enhanced my own combat instruction." Her special operations experience provides perspectives that enhance traditional combat training. Walsh's integrated training programs were eventually adopted throughout Special Operations Commands, establishing new standards for medical tactical integration that enhanced the effectiveness of special operations personnel worldwide. But perhaps Walsh's greatest contribution was demonstrating that true operational excellence required integration of multiple capabilities rather than narrow specialization. Her willingness to serve in a medical support role while possessing advanced tactical and combat qualifications showed that the most effective special operations personnel were those who could contribute across all mission requirements. The story of Lieutenant Commander Walsh became legendary at the training facility, shared with new classes as an example of how extraordinary capabilities often hide behind ordinary professional roles, and how the most valuable personnel are often those whose full qualifications remain hidden until circumstances reveal their true expertise. The most important lesson you can learn here, instructors would tell new candidates, is that exceptional capability often comes disguised as routine competence. The person providing medical support might be someone whose tactical and combat experience exceeds your own. Years later, when Walsh had transitioned to other assignments, her legacy lived on in the enhanced training programs she developed and in the understanding that true special operations excellence requires integration of all capabilities rather than traditional role separation. Her story reminded everyone that in special operations, as in life, the most dangerous assumptions are those we make about people who seem to fit perfectly into expected roles, because the most exceptional people are often those who choose to hide their extraordinary capabilities behind routine professional responsibilities. Walsh's tactical correction of General Stone and her combat demonstration against Senior Chief Torres became defining moments that established new standards for recognizing and utilizing the full capabilities of special operations personnel, regardless of their assigned roles or apparent functions. This story was brought to you by Silent Salute. Before we leave you today, here's our question. Have you ever discovered that someone you knew in a routine professional capacity actually possessed extraordinary expertise or experience that they kept hidden? Have you encountered people whose true capabilities far exceeded what their current roles suggested? Tell us in the comments about the moments when you realized you'd been working alongside someone whose background and abilities were far more remarkable than anyone suspected. And if you believe that the most exceptional people are often those who don't need to advertise their qualifications, hit that subscribe button to support our channel. Every story reminds us that extraordinary capabilities often hide behind ordinary professional appearances, and that the people we overlook may be the ones with the most to teach us. We'll see you in the next story, where we'll discover another incredible tale of hidden expertise and unexpected revelation.